Hello, my name is Thomas James Munro, as you can see here, and I want to go through with you on a little video keynote presentation on how to use basic functions within the Yamaha QL series. Now, I've used the Yamaha LS9 quite a lot within my career, but the QL I've only used a handful of times. Nonetheless, I would just like to note that the QL series actually has a touchscreen, which is very much advantageous, and it gets incorporated into the workflow. So I'm not going to be doing a comparison of them, but the QL series is just a superior version really. It's got more processing power as well, which means in terms of the graphic EQ, it can actually handle more. It can actually handle more being used. So let's go through it. Okay, let's get started. So how are we going to be tackling this? We're going to be going through each section individually, just roughly going over. This isn't going to be an in-depth thing because that would take far too long, and I don't want to have to explain each and every parameter and how it's used within audio engineering, because if I was here explaining a compressor for 3 hours and different ways of using it, things might get boring. So this is a very basic means of just going over things, and it's mainly looking at the workflow really. So arguably the most important thing about this console is this little rotary encoder here. Now we can use this, it's incorporated into the workflow. We need to use it really. So for example, we would use the touchscreen. We would touch the parameter that we want to affect, and we would turn this little digital rotary encoder. So to change the gain, for example, we would touch the gain, which is on the touchscreen there, as I've highlighted, and then we would be able to manipulate that specific parameter with this digital rotary encoder. So we would turn it up or down, and likewise goes for any other parameter. We select it on the touchscreen, then we can affect it using this encoder. Moving on, another way of affecting the channel's gain is we need to select the Q button on the corresponding fader for that channel. This allows us to use the PFL, so we can use the meter on there. If we use select on the other hand, this will bring all the parameters up for that channel. Think of it as like a sneak peek, a little preview of what's going on within that channel, but the Q function allows us to listen back on headphones, for example, to a headphone mix, so it's not affecting the front of house. Kind of like a solo, but only in the headphones. I put a little I've written down a little audio piece for you there so you can listen to that. Anyway, I'm rambling on. So for example, we have a dedicated control here for the gain, so we don't have to press select or Q, then touch the part of the touchscreen for gain and then use the rotary encoder. We can just go straight to Q and then adjust it on that dedicated controller, so it's a lot faster to use the dedicated controller. Simple, easy as that. Do me a favor, don't set the gain to -3 dB or something daft like that in a live environment. Just don't. It's not difficult, you know, just -12, something like that, you know, nice healthy gain structure. Just an idea. Okay, panning again. Dedicated panning controller, simple as that. Same methodology. We could use the touch and turn rotary encoder, or we could just use the dedicated one. Why not use the dedicated one? It's much simpler. Don't forget, we can either use select or Q. Just use Q really. Dynamics. Okay, so an important note about the dynamics is, i.e. compressors and stuff. The dedicated controls only control the threshold. Now, it makes sense if you're going to choose one aspect of a compressor, for example, to control on the fly and give a dedicated control for it, then it makes sense to just control the threshold. So it makes sense that they've done that from a design perspective, but really you want to be going onto the touchscreen and manipulating all the different aspects of compression and so forth. I'm not going to go into compression here because that would take, in uni it took us, I'm not sure how many lectures to go over compression techniques and compressors and different types. Those were good lectures actually, that was good stuff. I'm not going to be repeating that here. Nope. Moving on. So, our fully parametric EQ, simple as anything. We've got a dedicated controller for our high pass filter. Again, I'm not going to explain what that is. And this makes sense, again, from a design perspective and ease of use. High pass filters are used a lot, but not for a kick drum, put it that way. Okay, so we've got that, and then this is the interesting part. Don't forget to use selecting Q when wanting that specific audio channel, because otherwise you'll be affecting the wrong audio channel, as many people have done. Now, we have our Q, our frequency, and lastly on the right we have our gain. And these correspond with the dedicated controllers that we have. They correspond to the touchscreen, and you can see them on there. Now, I have color coded what's going on here just to make it simple for you, because I'm in that kind of mood. Simple enough. We have low, mid, high. And we can flip between all those. Again, it just makes sense from a design perspective from Yamaha that they won't want to incorporate 3 different dedicated controls for each one of those banks, I guess you could kind of call them. Simple enough, color coded, you can guess what these do. It's not hard. Okay, so we have our user-defined keys, which are a big part of the workflow again within this console. Anyway, for example, we can use DCAs, and we can use these as mute groups, which is a very good idea to use within this console. For example, mute groups. You could assign all the first drum kit from the first bands onto that mute group, and then when that band finishes, you press this one user-defined key and it mutes the entire drums. That's beautiful workflow. Simple thing, a lot of people use it, it makes sense to use it, and then you can unmute the second group for your actual main performance. Nice, right? Easy, simple. You don't need me to explain this stuff, but it's all there. It's easy to use. DCAs, I've gone through this on another video actually, DCAs versus matrices. A little screenshot there for you from the manual of this specific digital console. So pause this, have a little read of that if you don't know what it is. Moving on. Graphic EQ. Okay, so we could use our, well, we really should be using our sends on faders for this console. And we can assign these sends on faders to effects, say, graphic EQs for different monitors within our live environment, say the vocalist monitor to guitarist and drummer. So we can avoid getting feedback, and then obviously you want one for front of house, arguably the most important thing. Just tailoring the equalization of that channel to the part of the room that the speaker is in. Simple enough. programming and routing. So we want to be going to setup, which is under the meters. Simple enough. And what we can do in here, which is important, is we can get a USB stick and have our user key as that, so we can lock the console effectively when we take the USB out, so no one can meddle with it when we're not there, which is a very nice feature actually. But you know, you don't want anyone messing with your stuff when you're away from the console. You just don't. That can obviously backfire as well if you had someone just helping you out and they didn't have a USB. Whatever. And more importantly, we can change the bus setup here. Click on that and you can assign and change where the buses are routed to. Simple enough. Effects, this is, I'm not going to dwell on this too much. We can assign our effects by following this little path, selecting the effects that we want, then we can adjust the effect parameter and selecting where we want the effects to be assigned to. Simple enough. And we can assign effects again on our sends on faders. So for example, reverb, if we wanted to apply it to multiple channels, we would usually put on vocal channels, but you might want it to assign to, I don't know, some acoustic guitars or whatever. So for example, it makes more sense efficiently in terms of time to be able to just click on sends on faders and then push the faders up for those channels that you want the effect to be applied to and by how much, and then you can just ride that fader really in terms of how much reverb you want. If a singer's singing a long note and you just want to have that kind of blossoming echo, we were talking about reverbs here, blossoming reverb at the tail of their note, that's often quite sought after. It can sound quite nice. Yeah, we can do that very easily, just assign it to that, and we could also mute that specific effect again with our user-defined keys. And primarily speaking though, we'd be using our sends on faders as our monitor sends and our auxiliaries. Simple enough. We can select on the touchscreen again and use our digital rotary encoder here to increase or decrease the level on there. Simple, makes sense. And we can change pre and post fade. I'm not going to explain that, that's one of the most basic things. There are advantages to both, depending on what situation. And again, another massive part of the workflow here is we can select between channels 1 to 16 on here, and then 17 to 32. And then we can go to our stereo ins and our DCAs and our mixes and matrices. And I've explained the difference and the advantages of using, say, DCAs as opposed to matrices within a separate video. I've got to take this note off. Oh well. This is my first video kind of keynote, so don't cut me some slack. I forgot, okay? Right, so I'll put a link in underneath to take you to a description of me explaining these, comparing them, and using them in different workflow environments, so you can have a look at that. Now, I've included this video. I could have cited it, but I just chose to include it because why not? Of our man Kevin here explaining RTAs and being incorporated within the console. So let's have a little.
It's pretty cool in V3 for CL and QL, and that is that we've got an RTA that shows up in the EQ window. So come on and let's take a look. I'll show it to you. So if we simply open up an EQ, we have the option of turning the RTA on. We can do a hold if we wanted to check it out exactly what it looked like. We weren't sure. We wanted to walk away and come back. But also, if you have a problem, you can just go in and you'll see your change in the RTA. So pretty helpful there. Another good thing to know about is in the meter window. If we go over to the meter, we've got input meters and output meters, of course, but we also have RTA. So in here we can select buses, or we could turn on our Q override and cue a channel and see that channel in the window. One other really cool thing is that we've got a cursor. So if you want to see where a certain peak is, you can simply just drag over to here. It'll tell you the frequency and what level that is at. So pretty neat thing, V3 for CL and QL. Check it out.
Thanks for that, Kevin. And that basically concludes our basic navigations through this console. There's a lot more advanced things that you can do. We could go a lot more in depth with this, but I advise just popping through the manual, popping it open, having a little look in it, and yeah, if this whets your appetite for it, then good on you. Thank you so much for listening to me ramble on as usual. I hope this video isn't too long, and yeah, have a nice day. Thanks.